Hi, welcome. I'm glad you're joining me live. My name is Laurie Kurtz Kelly. I've been a physical therapist for over 20 years, and I love helping people build stronger, healthier knees. Just a few minutes, I'm going to share with you a three-part method for, for doing just that. Unfortunately, this is a method that's not just automatically shared with people when they go to the doctor. So perhaps this sounds familiar to you. If you've had knees that kind of haven't felt great, maybe they've been achy or sore or stiff, and just there's something not right with your knees. So you mentioned it to your doctor, you go to the doctor specifically for your knees. Oftentimes an x-ray is ordered, and one of two things typically happens at that point. Your x-ray may come back and it may look kind of quote unquote normal, which it's good, right? That there's nothing like glaringly wrong with your knee on the x-ray, but it can be frustrating because then you're kind of left with, well, no real advice, no real clear path forward. On the other hand, your x-ray may come back and reveal some amount of deterioration or damage. And then your doctor gives you a diagnosis of arthritis or osteoarthritis. And that too can be kind of frustrating because there's not a clear path forward. It's almost like, not almost, the medical system pretty much assumes that if you have arthritis, that's not going to go away, that's just, really going to keep getting worse until you eventually need a knee replacement. And over and over and over, I've seen, like, I've been doing this for a couple of decades now, I've seen hundreds of people get really good results with this approach, even when their x-rays show significant damage or deterioration. So I'm going to share that with you today. It's a three-part approach. Part one, or step one, is reviving your knees. So revive your knees is step one. Step two, rebuilding your knees. And step three, restoring your knees. So we're going to go through all three steps. You're welcome to ask questions. You're welcome to drop any questions you have in the comment section of this, near this video on your screen. Just type in your questions, send them over. That would be great. If this approach resonates for you, you'd like to hear more about it, you'd like other people to know about it, the way to do that is to click the like button. If you like or share or comment, then YouTube recognizes that, oh, this is probably going to be interesting to other people, and it'll pop up on their screens and they'll get the information as well. So thanks in advance for doing that. All right, step one, reviving your knees. So when you're in this phase of making your knees healthier and happier, you are in the revive stage. You want to do things that make your knees more comfortable. Now, part of that is temporarily avoiding certain things that are hurting your knees. Like if you go on a run, or you go on a hilly bike ride, or you hike, or you squat in the garden, and your knees hurt afterwards, then it can be relatively clear that those activities are a little bit too much for your knees, at least for right now. That's not to say that I advocate for getting rid of those activities altogether, but temporarily setting them aside is kind of part of the reviving process. The other part of that process is improving something deep inside your knee. And so let's talk a little bit about the knee joint just real quickly. You have two bones that come together, your thigh bone and your shin bone. And there's movement that occurs between those bones. And then there's also a kneecap. The ends of all those bones have a substance that, when it's healthy, is very firm. And that substance protects the bones. It provides shock absorption and a smooth surface for motion to occur. That substance is known as cartilage. Now, a lot of doctors will tell you that you can't change your cartilage, but anything in your body, is that's alive, right? All the substances, they can all change. They can all get better, they can all get worse. And today we're talking about how to make them better. Cartilage is going to change differently than muscles change because they don't have as much blood supply. They really have a negligible amount of blood supply. So because of that, they don't get this influx of all the ingredients necessary for improvement. But there are a few ways in which you can improve that cartilage and the quality of the cartilage and how firm it is. The firmness of it will mean that it will respond well to load. It'll act as a shock absorber and not get damaged and not cause you stiffness or achiness later. So inside that knee, that would, so there's bones that come together, the kneecap, the shin, and the thigh bone all come together. There's cartilage in there. There is a tough sac that surrounds your knee, 360 degrees. That sac holds fluid in your knee, and fluid is a normal, healthy part of your knee. That fluid lubricates your knee, similar to oil in the engine of a car, lubricates and allows the pistons and other parts of the engine to move with less friction. So healthy fluid inside the knee provides shock absorption for your cartilage, and it provides a lubricant so that movement happens really easily and comfortably. Healthy fluid is going to be the thickness of egg whites. So it's again cushy. It's not watery like it's not thin like water. If you've had some deterioration on an x-ray, or you've had some fullness or some swelling in your knee has felt a little stiff, it's very likely that you have a thinner fluid in your knee. And the way to get thicker fluid is by turning on the muscles gently, turning on the muscles on the front of the thigh. Now, I'm not talking about strengthening the muscles. Strengthening the muscles it will be important, but the first thing you need to address is inside the knees, that joint fluid to give a better quality so that your knees move and are protected as they're moving well. So turning on the front of the thighs, I talk about this a lot. If you want kind of more of the science behind it, I would recommend that you check out my video, The Ultimate Guide to Quad Sets. But let's say you're out and about. You don't have a place to sit down. You don't have a couch or a bed where you can sit down and put your, straighten your legs out in front of you. If that's the case, if you're out and about and you can't, sit down, lie down, I have another idea for you. So if you have a place like a wall where you can lean against, it doesn't even have to be a wall. It could be, like a pedestal someplace, but someplace where you can lean your upper body, hips to shoulders against the wall. And your feet, your heels are about 12 to 18 inches away from that wall. Tip this down just a little bit more so you can see my feet. So you're kind of standing against the wall. Your shoulders and hips and upper body are supported by the wall. Your feet are roughly shoulder width apart. Tighten your core. So I typically say, okay, to tighten your core, pretend you have a candle at arm's length and extinguish it. You'll feel tension here, and you'll want to maintain that tension as you lift your toes up off of the floor. And then hold for 5 seconds. And then you'll gradually lower your toes back to the floor. That's the exercise. Now, if you're doing this along with me at home, which please do, you're welcome to do this as we're talking about it. As you lift your toes, most likely what you're going to feel is the front of your shins. So the muscles on the front of your lower legs, are going to be working to lift and hold your toes up. But that's not what we're after, okay? So you're lifting your toes up, you're holding, your core is still tight, you're holding for about 5 seconds, and then you're lowering them down. So if you're doing this with me, put your hands on your thighs. And as you lift your toes, notice what happens. So I'm lifting my toes up. What I can feel under my hands is that my thigh muscles, without me purposely doing this, my thigh muscles are kind of tensing up a little bit. gently, but they're definitely working to some extent. This tension in this thigh muscle, without putting too much pressure on your knees, right? There should be no discomfort in your knees while you're doing this to make sure it's completely beneficial. The tension in your thighs will thicken the fluid in your knees. All right, so that's a way to do it if you don't have a place to sit down. Then you need to spread that fluid around. We're still in step one, the revive phase, right? So you're sitting, if you can sit up someplace, I'm on a tall stool. If you're sitting someplace where your feet are dangling, they're not touching the floor, then you can swing your lower legs. Maybe if you sit on the back of a pickup truck, or you could be on the edge of a picnic table. This is one way to get motion. Gentle motion is another important piece of the revive your knees portion of, improving your knees. So you thicken the joint fluid, and then you spread that joint fluid around. This gentle motion, and there's other ways to get it too, and I'm just showing you something that's nice and easy. This motion is also going to massage your cartilage, and that massage over thousands of repetitions over multiple weeks and months is going to help firm it up. All right, great. So that will kind of take us through the revive portion of the strengthening of building stronger, healthier knees. Then you're going to move into phase 2, level 2, which is rebuilding your knees. Now, rebuilding your knees is going to strengthen your knees for your day-to-day activities. So one day-to-day activity that I think is pretty universal, pretty common, is sitting down on a chair and standing up from a chair. That needs to be really comfortable. That is a type of squat. So oftentimes people are told, avoid squatting. And that's, in my opinion, is not a good long-term, approach. So you need to be able to find a way of squatting that is easy enough on your knees that you can do repetitively. So more volume, and then as you perform it more times, so maybe you can start by doing it 10 or 20 times, and then you work up to 50 times, then you begin to make the exercise harder and harder. So maybe this is way too easy for you, like sitting down on a chair and standing up from a chair. But maybe you also have a little bit of achiness if you do that, several times in a row, or you do that all day throughout the day. For example, I was talking with someone, and she's a nurse, and she worked in a clinic in which she was in and out of patient rooms all day, and she was sitting down on those small round stools that roll around in a lot of doctors' offices. And so I said, and she's like, my knees always hurt toward the end of the day. It didn't hurt her to sit down once, talk to a patient or the family or so forth, and then stand up and go to the next room. But by the time she did that several times an hour, every hour throughout the day, it began to really make her knees ache. So all that to say, we need to find some type of squatting that feels good for your knees. Using a chair is one way. To make it easier, you could squat onto a tall stool. I like to help people turn on their core more and provide a little support for their body weight. It both challenges them and it takes some pressure off their knees if they use a gray cook band. So this is a gray cook band. It can easily be attached at the top of a door by opening the door and putting, there's 3 different webbed straps. I'm going to start by putting the 2 webbed straps, the 2 ends, over the top of the door. And this, I'll turn the chair to face the door. This loop of tubing goes around a person's trunk, goes around your trunk, and then you step back from the door to the point where you feel like, oh, this is pulling me forward if I don't kind of resist it a little bit. And in this position, you can squat down with control onto the chair. The chair gives you kind of a nice landmark. And doing it slow makes your muscles work and protects your knees. And pushing up with your hands will support your knees. Okay, so this makes it even easier than, say, just squatting up and down on a chair. Squatting is just one example of the exercises in squatting type drills. Squatting type exercises are one example of what's included in the rebuild phase. It's also important that your core and your hips are strong, and that you have good balance, and also challenging yourself in multiple directions, because we live in three-dimensional space, right? So all of that is important in the rebuild phase. Then we get to the restore phase, and when you're restoring your knees, you're strengthening them to the point that you can return to sports or whatever challenging exercises and activities are important to you. So everybody kind of has, not everybody, no two people have the exact same goal. Somebody might want to go biking, but it's more recreational. Somebody else might want to cycle more competitively. One person wants to run, somebody else wants to hike. So whatever it is, the restore phase is to bring you to the point where you can start to reintroduce that and not relapse and not go backward. So if you just do the revive, which oftentimes people say, well, my knees felt so much better initially. I went to I did the exercise, I did some easy exercises, and I stopped running, or I decreased how much I was hiking or whatever, and their knees start to feel better. But without, following up with rebuilding and then restoring, they typically get to a point where then they have a setback. And that's pretty challenging. So I'll say a little bit more about that later. But in the restore phase, we want to very specifically make sure that your knees are ready for the type of activities that you want to do. So let's say hiking is something that's going to be important to you. One of the things, and I'm using a step. This is larger than a typical step that, in terms of a flight of stairs. So let me change my camera so you can see that. Okay. So when you're hiking, sometimes it's flat, but other times it's, a significant inclines and declines. Sometimes there's boulders and so forth. So if you're stepping up on a rock or a railroad tie or whatever it is, when you step up, pushing through that foot, and your knee straightens, that is like the upward portion of a squat. If you're stepping down you're hiking and stepping down off of a boulder or a railroad tie or so forth, the same thing is true. Your knee is bending with weight through your leg. Your foot is that's a type of squat. A squat that's much harder than the one we talked about. It's just like sitting down on a chair. One reason it's harder is because the surface is different and unlevel. Your knee is bending probably with more weight on it than with a chair, because it's one leg at a time. You may have a backpack on and so forth. So it's important to work through certain exercises that move your knee and your thighs and your hips and your core, that all of it work together and gradually get more and more challenging. So you may have started with the exercise I demonstrated earlier, which was the assisted eccentric chair squat. And then you increase the volume of that exercise, so you can do it a lot more. And then you're going to be ready for a harder exercise. So one example, I'm now going to attach this gray cookie in the middle of it at about waist height. And move a few things out of the way. And now you're standing with the tubing pulling to one side, which will force your core to work a little harder. And you're squatting, pushing your hands straight out in front of you, which if you try this, you don't have to have this exact type of tubing. If you have any type of tubing that's pretty strong and you're holding it with very little slack, next to no slack, and maybe a little bit of tension in it, when you squat and push forward, that's going to make your core work a lot, which gives a better foundation for your hip muscles. It will help or encourage the hip on the side closest to the attachment, and it'll challenge the other side. So now you've got your hip and your core working, and the front of your thighs are working because they have to when a person squats. This would be a squat punch. It's a little bit more challenging. Now, another item, most of the items are beyond the gray cook band are relatively common household items. One of which is a furniture mover. And I just put green felt on the top of my furniture mover so that you can see it, because the floor in here is so dark. I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but another exercise that's just going to gradually get you to the point where you can restore the activities that are most important to you without getting the knee pain. The furniture mover goes on the floor. This goes around your body just like last time. You step away. So I'm going to perform what's called an assisted because of the tubing. And let me move this chair a little bit. So it's an assisted back slider. The tubing is assisting me. The sliding is happening under, I'll stand on my left leg and I'll slide with my right foot. So I've got tension on the tubing. I'm facing the attachment. My core is tight. I'm pushing through the heel on the side that I'm standing on and the pinky toe side of that foot. And I'm sliding back. Now, I'm going to do it without the tubing so you can see it from the side. All right, here we go. So standing on my left leg, pushing through the heel and the pinky toe side of the foot. I'm squatting down and coming back up on this left leg. Now, somebody is, maybe thinking, isn't that just a lunge? Do I really need a furniture mover? The reason, and I highly recommend the furniture mover in this case, the reason I do is that you turn on a lot more muscles when you use the furniture mover. So if I were to not have the furniture mover and just lunge backward and come forward, the whole time my leg is just in the air, I'm kind of propelling myself, and my muscles don't have to engage as well until my foot contacts the ground. And now, everything has to turn on immediately, right? If you have the furniture mover underneath your foot and you're performing the exercise, my muscles have to turn on and stay on the whole time. And they learn, to coordinate better, to support my whole leg, including my knee. This is more pressure on your knee than the first exercise I demonstrated, right? And then you can move to an exercise that's even more challenging or harder. And I'm just going to face you so you can see me. See me do this. All right. So core is tight. The same squatting motion is happening on my left leg. And now the slider goes to the side. My hip should still stay above my foot, my heel. You don't want your hips to slide with your foot, right? So it's down, and I'm running into the wall there. And then back up. And depending on what activity you want to restore, depending on what activity you want to get back to, that you want to train your knees for, you may not need to do that last exercise, which is called a slide slider. That may be more advanced than you need to get to. So there's options, to stop when you're at a place where you've gotten back to the point where now you can resume an activity or an exercise and not get the same symptoms, that achiness or stiffness or swelling or whatever it was for you that may have taken you into the doctor in the first place. All right, I'm going to grab some water. If you have a question, feel free to drop it in the comment section. So the three part method to strengthen your knees, to build healthier and happier knees for whatever life activity or exercise that you most enjoy doing, is going to be reviving your knees, rebuilding your knees, and then restoring your knees. And my colleague, Dr. Doug Kelsey, and I have created an online program and a private community where you can ask me questions. I host question and answer sessions twice a month, so that you can learn, you can follow kind of step-by-step guidelines of what to do. Like if this sounds like, oh, if I had more, like this makes sense to me. Please consider joining us. The link for Better Knees for Life is in the description below this video, and then you can kind of go at your own pace. It's not a competitive program. You are in it to achieve what you want to achieve. So it's meant to be super supportive. I really enjoy, working with people to help them build stronger, healthy knees and giving them hope. So let's say this sounds helpful to you. It sounds supportive to you. It's not the right time for you. Please spread the word. Like this video. Share it with someone that you know that maybe has some knee pain or stiffness or achiness or swelling that they're trying to get rid of. I'd be most grateful. And if you're thinking, well, gosh, this sounds good, but I have a certain situation going on, or both of my knees hurt a little bit more than, there's no way I could sit down in a chair without using my hands, then I also offer individual coaching. So one-on-one coaching online, and you're welcome to go to my website, which is kurtzcoaching.com, and schedule a 20-minute free strategy session to discuss more if this is a good fit for you. And I'd be happy to kind of talk with you about what good next steps would be for you and for your knees. All right. Let me just look at my notes, see if there's anything else that I planned on talking about today. I think that's everything. Thanks for those of you joining live. Thanks to those of you watching the replay. Please drop a comment in the below this video. Let me know if there's any questions that you have that I can maybe do future videos on. I'd be happy to support you in building stronger, healthier knees So consider the Better Knees for Life program, which you can find a link to that in the description below this video. And if you're watching this live or you're watching this within the next few hours, there is also a significant discount that you can take advantage of. All right. Thanks again. And I look forward to helping you build stronger, healthier knees. Take care.